As my kids get older and we transition from picture books to chapter books of increasing girth, I've found myself looking for a solution to store all of the books, and hopefully just maybe keep them organized as well. What I've come up with is this bookcase with drawers to hold the books. It's my take on a modern card catalog with easy-to-use dividers to keep the Harry Potter separated from the Dragon Masters and the Magic Fairies out of the Magic Treehouse. This is a shelf for growing kids, all the way through the young at heart of any age. It's an easy way to keep your books looking organized and easy to find. Here's how I built it. I began by cutting the carcass sides. This can be done with 90-degree joints, which are then pocket-holed together, or with miters. Miters need to be reinforced, but as there is no room for bracketing and spleens are tricky, I elected to create floating mortises using a biscuit joiner. Now, I assembled the carcass first, but in retrospect, I would have cut the dados for the shelves first. Doing that step first allows you to line the two sides up together and create the groove all at once, so that your shelves will be guaranteed to be level. Doing it after assembly of the basic frame works, but involves significantly more math. Assemble the frame by gluing clamping cauls to the boards at the corners, closer together than I did, by the way, with just a bit of water-soluble glue. The glue can then be cleaned up after the frame is ready to go. Now, here's a little trick to save some money. If the cost of hardwood has you considering a second mortgage on your home, try making some of the unseen pieces out of plywood. The base and the shelves of my bookshelf are constructed out of plywood with about an inch of cherry wood in the front of each. I attached this front piece by cutting a slot in the plywood and a corresponding tongue in the hardwood. I did this on my router table using a slot bit. This was my first time using this plywood edging solution, and I think it worked out great. I did leave the hardwood just a tiny bit proud of the plywood and then smoothed it back with a hand plane. Because of the drawers, the shelves are never really seen, so this provides an economical solution. And, as you can see, a nice snug fit. The feet of this bookcase are formed using drawer pulls for a no-weld metal look that is, if I can just say, kind of awesome. There are 3 feet, each formed from 2 poles. The first step is to drill pilot holes for screws in one of each of the pairs. The feet are then held to the cab with a combination of CA glue and screws. After drilling the pilot hole, go back with a larger bit and very lightly drill out a wider opening for the screw head. Now let's be honest, this really won't make much of a difference as it's under the cab, but we're nothing if not detail conscious, right? Turn the case over and glue the feet 2 inches from the edges at the bottom and 3/4 inch offset from the back of the bookcase. The offset is to allow the case to notch over your standard wall trim. That said, the feet elevate the case 2 3/4 inch. So if your trim is higher than that, you'll need to plan to either trim around the case or add an extra nailer to the back so that the completed shelf can anchor to the wall. Once the first half of the feet are glued and screwed to the bottom of the cab, it's time to attach the second part. Instead of going and buying threaded rods, I simply cut the heads off of the screws that were included with the drawer pulls with this old back saw that has obviously seen better days. I wasn't sure how this would work, but it actually worked really well. I'm letting that play in real time so you can see that it doesn't take all that long to remove the head from the screw. Next, I dropped some CA glue in one side and threaded half of each of the feet. Now that works fine and all, but with one side threaded, the other side will no longer turn. So I needed to remove the threading from one half of that back screw. A grinder works quickly, but because not everyone has one of those hanging around, I tried a few options. A stationary belt sander was the next best thing, and it also worked great. With the threading stripped from that half of the screw, I was able to twist in the bottom half and then slip the 2 sections together with glue to hold it in place. And add a few clamps just for good measure. With the frame together and the feet attached, all that's left are the drawers. This seems like a good time to tell you that I have plans for this build up on my website if you are interested in building one of these bookcases for yourself. If you like to keep things simple, I have a basic set of plans that detail how to construct a drawer as part of this build. Those plans feature step-by-step instructions to construct this entire shelf using basic building techniques and simple joinery. Or, if you prefer a little more of a challenge, there are a set of applied plans that step up the game just a bit as I have built it here in this video. Anyway, as you can see, I elected to construct the drawers using hand-cut dovetails. Why? Because. That's why. Okay, truthfully, I'm trying to get better at cutting dovetails, and this seemed like a great opportunity. Next up, the drawer faces. This bookcase is my take on a modern card catalog, so I wanted it to have a lot of drawers, but also not. So instead, I cut a series of grooves in the faces to look like individual drawers. I later went back and cut grooves at the top edge of the drawer faces as well, just to give them a little more depth. A bit of paint inside each groove also adds to that effect. These gorgeous campaign poles make the entire piece. They're also a bit of a pain to line up, so I got around that by drilling 3/8" holes to allow wiggle room for each pole, and then I used CA glue again to attach those beauties right to the face. Boom. Screw the faces to the drawer boxes. I know I didn't show this, but full extension ball bearing drawer slides are really the only way to go here. Now, one of the best parts of this case is that it features a simple divider system that is easy enough for little hands to move around. I used adhesive-backed clear divider holders at the front and back of each drawer to hold the dividers, which are simply pieces of 1/4 inch plywood cut to width. You can, of course, find a full source list for all of the materials I used on the blog. The link is in the description. And there it is. I do want to emphasize again the importance of anchoring this to the wall. The pull-out drawer design of this bookcase makes it very forward heavy. My kids love how simple it is to get to their books and have been putting them away for all of a solid week now. I personally love how organized their room is and that we have space for all of their big kid books. Again, plans to build this bookcase are available on my website at www.thecreatedhome.com in both basic and applied versions. And would you get a load of this gorgeous build? Angie at House Becoming Home has created a full build tutorial for the basic version on her site, housebecominghome.com. Check that out, as well as all of her other incredibly beautiful builds. And if you build one, we would love to see a photo too. I've got links in the description to the tutorials and build plans where you can find everything you need to build one for yourself. Happy building!